Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, before we get started, I just need to make sure that we are all here at the right place and time. This is session AIM211, Augmenting Creative Thinking and Boosting Productivity with AWS, Generative AI. And I would like to learn a little bit more about the people today in our presentation. Who in the audience is a marketer or working in the marketing function? Maybe a director of operations, marketing ops. Any fellow PMMs out there? There you go. Fantastic. So you are familiar with the process of creating long-form pieces of content like ebooks and so forth, right? Yeah, we're on the same boat. And what about sellers? Who is in here with a sales organization? Maybe a field salesperson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, director of sales teams that would like to speed up things for their sellers. Very cool, very cool. You do create content, right, for your customers, more personalized than what we create for global campaigns, but still content. And now what about technical roles? Do we have solution architects, developers, AI, ML, scientists, data scientists, and so forth? Okay, that's a good group, and I'm glad to see that we have this mix because at the end of the day, we are all content creators, regardless of what create, right? And regardless of what marketing discipline, sales discipline we are in, regardless of a species, we are all content creators. And we will benefit of what AI has to offer for content creators as us. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope your reInvent Tuesday is coming to a very good, positive end. My name is Oscar Cediel. I'm a senior AI ML product marketing manager, now with Generative AI with AWS. With me is Silvia Prieto, who is a senior AI ML specialist at AWS, and we both are very honored and proud of having with us on stage Jeroen Minaert, who is chief software architect with Showpad. And the three of us will be walking you through the following agenda. I'm going to show you some market statistics and the impact that generative AI is having on people. Because at the end of the day, also regardless of our position in the organization, we need to convince stakeholders, we need to ignite that spark in teams to join the AI movement and deploy solutions that will help us all do better work. I'll take a deep dive into the marketing and sales use case just because, and I'll give you the reasons why these two use cases. I think that these are the use cases where you can demonstrate the most value that you can grab from AI, bring it into your company. Then I'll invite Jeroen to share the Showpad success story. You'll get inspired about what they've done. You'll get ideas about how to make it happen for your applications, for your platforms, for your solutions. Then Julia, our senior specialist, will take from there and talk about bringing all that you've heard, that we'll hear at that point, into technical reality. And what do we have to offer on AWS for generative AI and foundational models. And then as we have worked in different capacities with AI, we're going to put everything together to give you the 5 quick, easy ways to get started, to see what you can grab from there also to start that revolution in your own organization. So let's get started from the very beginning of things about generative AI. What's generative AI? We know is that branch of AI capable of creating images, sounds, music. These days, people use it for everything. Generate puppies with hats or do real work. I've seen people generating stories for their children to tell them at nighttime, bedtime story time. I'm guilty there. And I'm seeing people delivering global campaigns with the tools that we all have seen so far delivered in the market. Some of them very basic, some of them more complex, but they are both being used for either use case, serious and not that serious. Generative AI is powered by large models pre-trained on vast corpus of data, and they are referred commonly as foundation models or FMs. And they are the ones that have been trained and to enable people to generate images like, I want to see a lemur wearing a hoodie or a fox in a purple suit, or maybe show me how my product would look in a campaign using the branding guidelines of 2023, things like that. It's using natural language to generate content. Now, when we talk about generating content, we have to talk about people, and that's where I usually like to start speaking and talking when I refer to generative AI, because it's who's going to be impacted. Internally at AWS, we've been enabling different teams to use generative AI, and you can feel the anxiety, and you can feel the doubts and the thoughts that people have about job security and so forth. I found research from the MIT done this year where they took professionals that are using or planning to use generative AI, and they asked them about it. What do you think about it? Are you seeing a benefit? And a large majority reported that AI is having a positive impact on their work. AI is not only helping them to do more work, but better work that people feel proud about. Now, I, as a Spanish native speaker, I've been using generative AI to polish the way that I communicate with others. And these days, I'm more proud of what I say, what I show, because it's of higher quality. Now, it can also reduce those tasks that people usually seem to be boring and tedious. And we know that all these metrics together have a direct impact on professional fulfillment and personal satisfaction. Now, when we look at the market, we right away see that the shift has been nothing less than seismic. According to Bloomberg, the market is going to grow to $1.3 trillion in the next 10 years. Now, remember that in January 2022, the generative AI market was estimated to be $40 billion. And today it's at $1.3 trillion. Now, from that 1.3, it's expected that at least 250 billion will come in the shape of new software, new applications that we haven't even seen yet. That's why Gartner estimates that at least 100 million humans will be interacting with what they call robo-colleagues as early as by 2026. And that's something that we are actually doing right now. And perhaps you are doing it too. Internally at AWS, these days, we are interacting with models through Amazon Bedrock, just generating marketing content, asking questions, and so forth. So we are already living that life that Gartner predicts many workers around the globe will be living very soon. And when we look at the use cases that bring the most value, there's a piece of research from McKinsey where they ask organizations that are using AI, and they ask, which are the use cases that are bringing the most value to you? And they identify 5 that bring 75% of that total value that AI brings to organizations. But only from those 5, marketing and sales represent at least 20% of that total value. So that's why I'm saying that the impact that you can create by enabling people in marketing and sales with AI will show the organization the future that they can live when they take then AI, generative AI, to manufacturing, to new product design, to new business development, to all the functions that can leverage it. But you need to sell the case inside the organization. So that's why marketing and sales are proven to be very, very effective. Now, why generative AI for marketing? Now, when we look at our marketers, we can see that generative AI can augment the way that they create content. They can generate far more ideas than before. In my case, when I had an idea for a go-to-market activation, I could come up with 3 to 5 ways to do it in a week. And then you have to share it with different people. People give you feedback on documents, so on and so forth. Now, just with pressing a button, I can generate another workflow of assets to see my ideas in the market. And I can do that exercise for as long as I need to. It can transform the way that you engage with your customers, not only because the content that you can generate can be highly personalized when you rely on your internal data and your historical data from Salesforce, from all your platforms to create highly personalized content, but also for marketers to generate new ways to go to market. Challenge the models to tell you, this is the way that we traditionally go to market, and here are the stages where we see we've been effective. Create 5 traditional and 3 highly creative ways to take this piece of content to market, and you see what the models can come up and get inspired from there. It definitely boosts productivity. For some teams, it will create speed. I can now generate a draft for a new press release document in a matter of seconds by just entering a few ideas about a new product. For other teams, it can reduce the number of cycles that takes to revise a piece of content. It can foster confidentiality and compliance. Because when you create your own marketing solution internally, you are not forcing your marketers to go outside and share, by mistake, confidential data in the shape of prompts or even outputs. So you keep everything inside. And compliance, because generative AI can check on more content and more often at a lower price, helping you achieve compliance, let's say, in content moderation across geo regions. Now, why for sales? We want our sellers selling. We want our sellers talking to customers and closing deals. So generative AI can help you move sellers from the keyboard and into meeting rooms, because they now don't have to spend too much time generating content for emails and contracts, proposals, so on and so forth. So this can spin up a quick version of something to share with teams for approval and feedback. They can reimagine their own customer relationships. In AWS, I've seen very creative sellers where they, with prototypes that we've created, they enter a few details, anecdotal information about their customers to tailor emails based on customers that that are in very specific industry segments, but also what they talk with their customer. Perhaps they talk about the soccer match from last night. That's something that it could be included if you have the right implementations to enable your sellers to become more personal. That way, it can strengthen your sellers' talents, because now your sellers can look at the camera and deliver their pitches and have generative AI give them real-time feedback. Hey, Oscar, you're going too fast. Slow down. Your audience is in this part of the world. According to our database, you need to slow down at least 25%. Oscar, you shouldn't be using this term. Oscar, you should, little by little, they can have a session expert giving them feedback and become better sellers. And it can unlock patterns and insights not only at a great speed, but with greater accuracy. Because now you're feeding all your information to tell sellers, this account is at this stage, they have these tickets open. If you help them close this ticket, it's gonna help to close that deal. Now, when you draft a proposal, this proposal has had impact in these regions, and because it's automotive, you should be using this email that is shown to be also impactful, so on and so forth. So these are insights that for a seller could have taken days or weeks, and we don't want sellers spending days or weeks in front of a computer and not talking to customers. Now, envisioning a workflow like this in practice, it's something like this. I wake up with an idea, as a product marketing manager, let's say I work in a shoe factory, I wake up with, people in Seattle, where I'm from, should have shoes that are like this, reflective and comfortable. And so I can just jump on my marketing solution and enter a product description. And my solution will be relying on brand guidelines and company information to make sure that what it generates fits all those guidelines. And I can even go further and generate things like images. So if my engine knows what type of products, materials, requirements, geos that I'm selling my product at, it can generate an image about it. It can give me a description that I can send right away to people. Hey, what do you think about a shoe that helps you experience Seattle with the comfort and durability of X, Y, and Z? That's great. We need a press release. Well, I have it because I generated it already, so here's a draft. What if it's not durable? What about if it's just reflective? If I just change the word reflective on my prompt, I can regenerate the whole marketing workflow in a snap. Now, when the time comes to sell it, then my seller can take that press release that I created, consume it, and summarize it in a few sentences so that person can understand it without having to read the whole thing. And I've seen creative sellers generate images, for example, based on the brand guidelines of their customers. So they are, in this case, they're saying, dear Laura, great we met. This is a shoe that is going to sell great in your shelves. And look how it would look like in your shelves. And it matches your tone in the market. It's immediately impactful for a customer to see that type of creativity being implemented. And by relying on the historical information of success in your platforms, you can even draft contracts. And I've seen also implementations where now these contracts are being parsed through systems that simulate negotiations, information that you can pass to your seller. If the customer says this, here's the most economic and valuable answer that you can give to that customer to close that deal, things like that. Now, I mentioned that we've worked in AWS with a few teams, and at one point, my product marketing team asked us to show the art of the possible with AI. And we created this prototype. At the time, it was an internal prototype that quickly moved into what today we know Party Rock, an Amazon Bedrock playground. I recommend that you all give it a try. We created this prototype. When we surveyed the PMM organization, they said it's just, we have to create so many documents for a single new product release. So we created this where with 3 basic user inputs, you generate as many documents as you want in a single shot. So let's see it in action. So this is the basic UI of Party Rock as you know it today. My 3 white fields are where I enter the information. So my product name is Walker Shoes, a new line of comfortable, reflective shoe. Then I enter my launch date, and right away, the tool starts generating content. Now, note that behind these different outputs, I have prompts about, I need you to write like an Amazonian based on the 10 writing principles of Amazon. I need you to create LinkedIn posts of 400 characters because that's the guideline from my AWS social media team. And the webinar needs to follow these 3 guidelines because that's what AWS events team say that those are the guidelines for our tool. We created an extra column to even challenge the model to give us suggestion on what the model wrote. So now that you're finished generating content, go take a look and give me 5 suggestions to make it even better, right? So those are suggestions that PMs can look at and say, like, oh, that's interesting. I'll make it part of my document. And that prototype, it took us 1 hour to create, 5 hours to prompt engineer, and is now being used by many teams in AWS. And it relies just on a handful of capabilities that we have on foundational models. With foundational models, you can turn good coders into great coders. And in marketing and sales, we have coders. When you have to go in the back end and change wiki code for your wiki page, or go into that widget on your intranet to deliver a widget for an intranet page, sometimes you need to code. It could be HTML, it could be CSS, it could be something else, but you can send that code to the engine and say, redo this code, this is what I need to do, and it will do it for you. You can create question answering widgets where you know that in the enterprise we have different answers for the same question, and some of them as old as my 7-year-old, and some others more relevant. We want to give people the relevant answer, and so that's what those widgets can do. We can transform our information into mathematical interpretation through embeddings, so we uncover insights that we haven't seen before, and that's exactly what our customers are doing today. right? So we have Analect, a group with Omnicom that is creating end-to-end advertising solutions supported by generative AI on AWS, creating segmentation, automatic segmentation, and advertising assets that a human team will review before going to market, but reducing the number of cycles in a go-to-market activity. We have Coda, who is making hundreds of teams all around the world more effective by integrating a platform of 600 plus tools with generative AI. And we have Showpad, a great example of what I mentioned, that helps sellers become better sellers and close more deals. But to tell the Showpad story, there's definitely no one better than Chief Software Architect Jeroen Minaert at Showpad. Welcome, Jeroen.
Thank you, Oscar. Is this working? Yes?
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, now it is working. So, hello everyone. My name is Jeroen. I am Chief Architect at Showpad. And so today I want to talk a bit about our GenAI story, what we've built, and how we've built it. But first, let's take a step back, look at sales and marketing. And from our perspective at Showpad, we see two main challenges. On one hand, we see a seller that has a hard time finding the most relevant marketing content that's out there. And the second challenge is that we see sales reps having struggles with training and coaching, and specifically to turn that information, the marketing content, into an engaging conversation with a buyer. And so what happens is you get horrible buyer experiences, you get terrible and missed opportunities and lost revenue. And so at Showpad, we're trying to fix that. We're trying to provide a platform where marketing, sales, and buyers can come together. So sales can have more engaging conversations with buyers, they can see more effective results from talking to buyers, and in general, they can see more opportunities turning into deals that are closing into more revenue. We do that by ensuring that marketeers have a content platform where they can upload their content into, so that sellers can use that content and tools and coaching to share that with customers, and we give buyers and sellers a form of a digital deal room where they can collaborate together and get to a deal. Very high level, Showpad is a Belgian-based company. We're about 500 people, and as we're approaching our $100 million annual recurring revenue mark, we're serving about 1,400 customers in about 50 countries all over the world with one SaaS platform. And in terms of activity, we have about 6.7 million monthly buyers that are interacting on our platform with sellers. We're also entirely built on top of AWS, so we have about 90 services, a bit more actually. I took the time to take all the icons and put them on here on this slide so that you kind of can see which ones we're using. But specifically, the ones that we're using today, I actually didn't find an icon for because it's Bedrock, and that's what we'll focus on a bit later today. But we're here to talk about AI, so let's take a step back, a look at the things we did with GenAI this year. So this only started a few months ago, where we said, okay, we have to go and look at some use cases. And instead of focusing on creating another chatbot, like so many do, we said, okay, what are those really essential and unique sales use cases that can help a seller in the field and can also make sure that those sellers can stop doing things that are very hard for them to do, but very easy for them to verify so they can still build a trust relationship with their customer. And so today I'm going to present you 4 use cases, not just one. We were able to build 4, and I'll take you through them to show you the power of what we've built. So the first use case is something we call AI-generated asset summaries. And this builds upon a very common use case of GenAI of creating a summary of a document or a piece of text. What we've done is we've taken that idea but given it a sales flavor. We basically said, okay, it's going to be very hard for a sales rep to read through a paragraph as a customer is asking them questions. So what we did is we intelligently formatted that as an FAQ. So we took the document and asked the GenAI, the large language model, to generate a set of frequently asked questions based on that document, so that when a buyer and a seller are talking to each other, the seller can easily take the buyer's question and return that into an answer through email, WhatsApp, or anything like that. But then we took it a step further, because if you can generate questions on one document, why don't we just allow you to ask any question about all your documents? And that's what we do with AI-powered search. We take a question, and we translate that to your document base and surface the answer in a written piece of text that you can easily copy in your email, and we reference all the source documents that it found that information in. But what if you don't have your laptop? What if you don't have your computer in front of you and you're going for, well, you're in Vegas, so you're going to play golf with your customer, right? Or you're going for a fancy dinner with your customer. Well, in those cases, you want to prepare offline. Maybe you want to do and create yourself an exam based on some of the content that you've seen. So you want to create yourself a multiple choice exam. And that's something we also provide with AI-generated test questions. We use the AI to generate a question, a right answer, and a couple of detractors so that you can optimally prepare for that face-to-face meeting that you have with your customer. And then finally, not exactly Gen AI, but I like to mention it as well. Once you're ready and you know all the content, you have all the information that you're ready to share, with our Pitch AI feature, you can record yourself, you can record your pitch, and we'll give you information about your tone of voice, your body language, the number of smiles, the number of wiggles that you're doing as you're talking to your customer, right? And we intelligently give you advice on how to perform better in front of your customer. So those are 4 features, 4 use cases that we've built. But what's the secret sauce, right? How did we get to these features? What are the core ingredients of the recipe that allowed us to ship this? So this is how we're going to get a bit more technical, by the way. And essentially, there's only 3. It's surrounding ourselves with an environment of tools, of data, of experts and expertise. It's making sure that we have an architecture of loosely coupled components so that we can reuse features. That's how we got from 1 to 4. And it's having a good set of guiding principles that allow us to apply very mature software engineering practices. So let's dive into each one of those. Your environment is super important, right? Because you want to create your AI applications in an environment that's essentially AI-friendly. So we started off making sure that we can give the right people the right access to data. So what we've done is we've essentially built a whole data mesh platform. And together with strong governance, we can actually make sure that there's a single source of truth from which you can develop your applications on. On top of that, we built our data platform on top of AWS. So when it comes down to using multiple services, combining them, we have one cloud-native platform that's fully serverless and cost-optimized so that we can actually provide the most effective solution to our customers. And finally, we surrounded ourselves with expertise. We upskilled our own engineers, first of all, but second of all, we also worked strongly together with the guys from AWS, and we also partnered with external partners to bring in some external expertise, just to make sure that we're set up for success. And that brings me to architecture. That's the second ingredient. And like I said, architecture is all about those loosely coupled components and making sure that we can reuse them so that your FAQ turns into your AI-powered search. And it starts from the bottom. It starts from having a very good machine learning infrastructure, having MLOps available for your engineers, so that when it comes down to deploying your foundational model or your large language model, it's just a click of a button. And we also added context retrieval as well, so we can augment the foundational models with knowledge, for example, extra knowledge that we have in Showpad, extra data from our customers, for example. And we also added a component for monitoring and feedback. So once this is in production, we're continuously measuring how well it's performing so we can make immediate changes if there happens to be something going well or something going wrong. And that's all combined in an orchestration layer, and that orchestration layer ultimately connects it to the application that serves it into a nice and beautiful UX to our customers. And now I can talk days about this and give you a bit more depth, but today I'm only going to focus on the foundational model side of things, the large language model side of things. If you have any questions about the others, please let me know after the session. So let's dive in. You might notice today, if you look at the landscape of solutions, especially compared to last year, it's pretty big. And there's quite a large range of solutions for you out there, from out-of-the-box solutions like OpenAI that provide you with an API with everything pre-trained, to a solution like Databricks that allows you to manage these models and deploy them, but you still have to self-train them, to, on the other axis, something very managed like Amazon Bedrock, to your own custom models that you self-host and you self-train. So there's a wide array of solutions for you. That also means there's a wide range of questions. But for Showpad, we get narrowed down pretty quickly because we're selling to large-scale enterprise. We have quite a lot of compliance constraints for our customers. Some vendors just aren't an option for us because they require us to move data, and that's something that we traditionally don't like to do. Also, developing custom models for every one of our 1,400 customers is also not something scalable. That's something that we can do in full detail, and therefore also that's excluded from the landscape for us. But what Amazon really offers for us is this ability to cover that entire landscape with the services that they have. From going from something like Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart, which allows you to deploy a model very, very quickly onto your own machine, or something super managed like Amazon Bedrock that is just very much plug and play. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because we're pretty much all over this landscape with our solution. We use the bits that we want and that we need to deploy our applications. So what does that look like? Well, first of all, no reInvent breakout session is complete without a good architectural diagram. So here's the first one. Sylvia has a couple more ready for you. But the key thing I want you to, well, there's actually 3 things I want you to remember from this slide. And that's on the left-hand side, what's super important is those traditional API mechanics like authentication, authorization, those still need to be in place. GenAI doesn't solve it, and so you still need to have the engineering, you still need to have the framework to deploy that in. The second thing I want to highlight your attention to is on the right-hand side of the picture, where you see that we're using multiple models. Right? We're using Amazon Bedrock for more conversational applications. We're using SageMaker, for example, for making the summaries. We're deploying Llama, for example, with Jumpstart. So we are just, with that Lambda in between, have a bit of a switchboard where we pick and choose what we want depending on the application. And on the bottom, you can see how we're integrating with OpenSearch to augment the large language models with extra knowledge from our customers and the index information that we have in there. Now, last but not least, the third ingredient are our guiding principles. It's what brings it all together. It's what allows us to bring these products to our customers in a mature way. And so we have 6 at Showpad. I'll go through them very, very quickly and then focus on one of them. So it starts with human agency, where we believe that in an era, in a time of AI, we still want there to be human control. We want there to be human audits, or we want there to be human overview, especially in enterprise. And it also means for us and from our perspective as Showpad, even though we are using something like Amazon Bedrock, when we're using AI models like Claude and Llama, for example, we still see us as responsible for delivering that service to customers. So accountability is key in this game. Transparency is also key, right? Indicating and educating your customers on where AI is used and what data is being used is essentially also very important to gain trust with your customers. And then obviously robustness is required. Any software application that goes to production needs to be well architected, needs to adhere to these best practices that we've been working for decades on as a software industry. And then there's inclusivity. I'll zoom in on this one in just a second. But inclusivity is all about fairness. It's about non-discriminating. It's about making sure that everyone that uses these applications feels like they are using it in the right way. They feels like they're being fairly treated by it. And then finally, there's integrity. And integrity basically means for us that we're respecting the legal, the social, and the compliance landscape that essentially forms the foundation of our relationship with customers. So very quickly, let's focus on inclusivity. Again, if you have more questions on this, let me know later. And I want to take the example of Pitch AI that we used before. So when you're recording your pitch, obviously you're doing that in a certain language. Maybe you're saying it in English, you're saying it in French, maybe you're saying it in Polish. But what's very important is every single language has their own pace. A language like Polish tends to be slower. A language like French or Spanish tends to be a lot faster. So one of the things we do is in our application, we detect the language, and then we translate that to a language-based benchmark, so that depending on the language you're speaking, we're grading you according to what the benchmark is to that language, and we're not just treating everyone as equal. And so with that, I think some final thoughts from my side before I give it to Sylvia, who will talk a lot about Bedrock and the technical details there. We've been on an amazing journey in just a few months' time. We've had a couple of really core ingredients that allowed us to bring these applications to production very, very quickly and with a lot of production-grade quality. And we're very excited to get this to the next level and see what this year brings. So, Sylvia, up to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi. Yes, OK. Well, thanks, everybody, for being here today. Thanks. You heard from Oscar about the art of the possible, how the market is booming, your own great representation about how Showpad is actually using this technology. But now we're going to get into technical, one level down. Great. So I want to introduce you to Amazon Bedrock. So Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service, which allows you to interact and build applications using a single API. Through this API, you have access to state-of-the-art models. We keep adding models as the time goes by, as these models become more famous and are being asked by our customers. We have built Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock, from the ground up in a private and secure way. This is very, very important. Why? Because you want to leverage these foundation models with your own data. So you want to make sure that the data is not being shared with others, there is no data leakage, or is being used for retraining of the model. So you can make sure that this is really happening with Bedrock. We don't want you to also worry about infrastructure management. This is all taken care of, so you don't have to worry about any of this. And what models do we have? So we have Anthropic. Anthropic is a model that's been trained with constitutional AI principles, meaning in an ethical and responsible way. Stability AI is a state-of-the-art text-to-image and image-to-image. So some of the things that Oscar was showing before about creating your content out of the box, this will be the model that will help you generate those images. AI211 Labs is a great model for generating text and generating emails, for example. Then we have Amazon Titan, our own models generated and produced by AWS. We have text and embeddings in this case. We have Cohere and Command Cohere. They are models who have been built particularly for enterprises and support more than 100 different languages. So if you have customers across different regions and countries, this will be a great model for you to use. And lastly, is Meta Llama 2. It's the first open source model that you can access through an API. Now, when I present these models to my clients, they say, but which model shall I use? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on your use case. So 3 things that you need to consider is speed, accuracy, and cost. This will determine which one you have to use. So, for example, smaller models are really fast. They are also cheap, but the accuracy is not the same as the large language models. On the contrary, large models are really accurate, but the cost is high and the speed is not there. So you need to balance this. Now, when I explain this, always someone asks, but I want it all, and don't we always want it all? And the answer is, yes, you can have it all, if you fine-tune. You fine-tune for a task, and then, yes, you take a smaller model, you put your data, and then boom, you have something speed, cheap, and accurate. But let me talk a little bit more about what else you can do with Bedrock. You can fine-tune, which is exactly what I just described. We also have agents for Amazon Bedrock. So what are agents? Agents is a way to automate tasks. So you can configure agents, give them access through APIs to other solutions, other services. Agents, what we'll do is get your question, your request, analyze, get information through APIs, through other systems, reason what the best next action is, and execute. Right? For example, think about you want to send an email to remind a particular set of your customers about a new product that you know that they really want. You can get that agents to do it automatically. And then also we have provision throughput. So you want to use this model at scale and not have to worry about capacity. You will use this feature as well. And last but not least, some of the things that Jerome was saying on his presentation, check to your documents. We have created an integrated serverless vector database integration with Redis, OpenSearch, and Pinecone, where you can automatically create these vector embeddings for your documents in a serverless way. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second. Now, LMs is obviously key, but they are part of a much wider integration. You don't build applications just with LMS. You need more things. And there are different ways on how you can optimize the use of these LLMs. And I want to talk to you today about there are 4 strategies that you should bear in mind when you want to improve the performance and the accuracy of it. First one is prompt engineering. What is prompt engineering? So Oscar was explaining a little bit about it behind when he was talking about the Party Rock application. Prompt engineering is when you tell the model how it needs to behave as part of the question. Sometimes you do this behind the scenes, you don't let the user see it, but it's something that your prompt engineers will have to configure. This helps improve accuracy of the model by giving examples of what a good answer looks like. So let me give you an example here. Here we have just a normal question with no context. We're just using the information that the model is being trained off to answer the question. So here we have the prompt is, write a tagline for a new snack food. And the answer is fueled by nature, okay? Now, if I give the prompt a little bit more information, it will get me something better. So it will say, bursting with real fruit and nutrition grains. So this is a little bit better than the one before, still using the knowledge of the training, but imagine here that we can also say into the model, hey, you are a marketing specialist, you work in the food industry, and these are 3 or 4 examples of other taglines that have been done before. This is how you will improve it, through prompt engineering. Second technique, retrieval augmented generation, commonly known as RAG. What is RAG? RAG is when you talk to your documents. So here you are not leveraging the information that the model has been trained on. You are just using the model to summarize and respond to questions of your own documentation. Why is this great? Because you reduce hallucinations considerably. Because you're not using the training data, you're using your data. Give me another example. Exactly the same prompt as before, but here what we're telling the model is, I want you to check the brand guidelines before you answer my question. And what's the answer? Is wholesome snacking naturally. And naturally is a word that appears on the brand guideline. And that's why the model is giving you back this answer. And the answer is on document brand guidelines, page 20. So you can actually go and check the document and see that it's actually true. So this creates trust with your users because they can go and double check or read more if they wanted to. Now, how do we put this into practice? I'll show you an architecture diagram. So step number 1 is that we need to transform the text into vectors. So what are vectors? Vectors are numeric representations of the text that have the semantic meaning of the words. So they are stored in a 3D database. In this case, it's Amazon OpenSearch. This is our vector database. So you do this first before you start, and you do it once. You will have to repeat it if the document changes or you add new documents to it. Now, the day of the user comes through a web application, application of your choice, and sends a query. The query is then sent to an API gateway that hits a Lambda. The Lambda does and takes that question and convert it into vectors. So here we are using one of the embedding models on Amazon Bedrock. It could be the Cohere one, or it could be the Titan one. The response is sent back and sent to the vector database. So what happens now is that Amazon Search is going to give you back the paragraphs where the answer to that question is. And those paragraphs plus the question is going to be sent to the text model. So the text model now will generate an answer, and the answer is going to be sent back to the user. And this is how you do RAG. Okay? Next. Sorry, you want to go back? Yeah, sure. No problem. Opportunity for everybody to take a picture here. Okay, perfect. Right, next strategy for implementing LLMs is fine-tuning, right? So now let's say, okay, I've done prompt engineering, I'm done RAG, But I still want more. What do I want? I want the model to speak the style of my company, the jargon, the voice, how we write our marketing without having to refer to the brand guidelines. I just want it to speak my language. This is why you will use fine-tuning, for example. The other option is that you want to really improve a specific task. That will be another reason why you do fine-tuning. And this is an example. So again, the same prompt, just so you can see the variation. So here the answer is simply fruit and grains, simply delicious. Why is the model using the word simply? Well, because we have been fed this model with previous press releases, with the CEO speeches, with the onboarding information that you give to your new employees when they join the company, previous marketing material, and the model has learned what the words are and how the best way of speaking is. So what if you want to do it in Bedrock? How would you do it? It's very simple. You just put your data on an S3 bucket. You choose a base model. Here you can be Titan, it can be Cohere, it can be Llama 2, and soon it will be also the Anthropic model. It will take a few hours to generate the new model, new version of the model, and then you get your new fine-tuned model. And then you can start doing prompting. So now you can take the architecture that I showed you before and just use this model rather than one of the base models. So the architecture before stays the same. The only thing that you need to change is the name of the model in the API call for Bedrock, which is very simple. So imagine how easy it is to change models in the future when you just need to change a name in the same API. Last strategy is retraining. So fine-tuning is great when you have hundreds, dozens of documents, but if you have thousands of documents, then you need to use a different tool. And this tool is called, let me show you an example first. And so again, this is a different prompt. Here we are saying we're a social media post. And then off the box, let's say the model has not been trained, we are not using RAG, we are not using prompt engineering, just the answer as it is we have launched a new granola bar made with oats, learn more. The retraining version is much better. It says, new blueberry blast granola bars, bursting with juicy blueberries and crunchy oats. These bars are crispy, delicious, and made with high-quality ingredients. How does the model know that it's high-quality ingredients? Well, because some of the information that we fed it talks about tracking the supply chain, working with ethical farmers, making sure that we spend time on sustainable activities. We pride ourselves and our brand with crispy kind of bars. That's one of the things that we try to sell in previous marketing campaigns. So the model automatically generates something without doing anything other than asking that is really aligned to the company style and voice and branding. Now, you want to do this yourself. So as I said, this kind of retraining requires data science skills. Bedrock is for developers and for any builder. But for data scientists, you need to use a different tool, which is Amazon SageMaker, which is our data science service. It's very similar, though. You will take a pre-trained foundation model, let's say Llama 2, for example, or another open source model. You will take your thousands of examples. You will use the tools within SageMaker, and then you will get a retrained model that then you can, again, use, in the same architecture as RAG. So all these techniques are not exclusive. You can always mix them together and use them to get the best performance out of it. Now, some customers will also want to do themselves the fine-tuning. There is also an option to do fine-tuning. So if you want to do parameter-efficient fine-tuning, PEF, some of those techniques are LoRa and QLoRa. You can do this also on SageMaker. There's going to be other sessions this week on how to do fine-tuning on SageMaker. I'll really invite you, if you want to get into the weeds on how to do this, to visit some of those sessions. Right, so to summarize, we have 4 techniques. As I said, these are not exclusive. You can use them together. And don't you worry, like 1, 2, and 3 will do 90% of your requirements. Even the first 2 will do most of the use cases that you probably come across. So I really invite you to start checking. But now let me give you a bit of guidance, and this is my last slide, about how I would recommend, after doing many POCs and putting some of these models into production with my clients. First is, get used to these models. Try and play with them, how they react, what they're good at, and get a bit of a flavor of how they work. Then find a good use case, not just a let's see if it works kind of use case and size experiment. Find a use case that will really solve a problem for your team, for your company, and something that will create business impact. And something that is visible, then you can go and showcase and get the funding that you need to put this into production. Number 3, build a prototype. But build a prototype thinking end to end, not just let's see the model does this. How would this look like from the user point of view? Who's going to be the user of the tool? And build that prototype and the view end to end. Start always from the user experience. How can you do this easy? You can use Bedrock. There's no simpler way than an API call and get access to 6 different models, plus there are different sizes of those models as well. We have code repositories, we have Party Rock, so there's many ways that you can interact with this. And then you might also want to think, do I really want to build this myself? Or maybe there's already an off-the-shelf solution like Showpad, for your sales teams that you can already leverage. But now you have a much informed decision whether this is the right tool for you and the right use case to move forward. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope you find this session useful, and thanks for being here. It's late in the day, so I appreciate it.